One of the things you mentioned in there was property taxes. I know there's been a lot of talk. The governor ran on a platform,
yes, he did,
at least in part, of lowering property taxes. There's been a lot of talk among legislators about ways to ease that burden, but it doesn't seem like there's been consensus yet on how to do that. I guess two-part question. One, what do you think are the best ways to help, the ways that the state can help lower property taxes? And then secondly, specifically about some of the governor's proposals, what's your opinion of his proposal to give cities and towns the power to levy meals taxes or hotels taxes?
Sure. On the first part, how can we lessen the burden of the property tax on the cities and towns? Well, the first thing we need to do is to continue our economic development initiatives, and that's difficult in this national economy. The unemployment rate in Massachusetts this month was 5.3%, or the month of July was 5.3%. Was down somewhat from the month of June, but still almost a full percentage point higher than a year ago. So we're being affected by these international and these national trends that we don't necessarily have 100% control over. But what we do have control over is what we can do to provide incentives for commercial entities, industrial entities, to come into our communities. And we've done this through the Economic Development Acts of previous sessions, through the Life Sciences Bill that we did in this session, which I was very successful in getting amendments in to make sure that companies like Nipro and Clinton, which is the largest private employer in this area, many people in Sterling work there, will be able to qualify for benefits under that act to continue their expansion and to stay here, not get sucked away to the south or to Texas or to Mexico or to other countries. And we're giving them those incentives to stay here. As long as we can keep those companies here and bring new ones in, or incentivize the expansion of the companies that were with us, that will lessen the impact of the property tax upon the residential property owners. But the bigger answer is we have to have a broad-scale debate about how much we rely upon the property tax to fund education and municipal government in this Commonwealth. And that's going to take a couple of terms, and it's going to take experienced people that have been at the table for many years and that are well equipped with state and municipal finance, because we've got to get off the backs of the cities and towns and stop relying so heavily. Now, does that mean where can the state find a further revenue source so that they can increase the amount of money coming back to the cities and towns? My idea, and I'll get to the governor's ideas in a second, actually what I'm going to say next touches on the governor's ideas, was casino gaming. It failed this year. I had spoken to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee about, if it did come to the floor, about including a requirement that any revenues be earmarked to go back to the cities and towns, or a percentage of those revenues. Because of opposition of the House leadership, which I bucked, the bill itself died. The governor's 3 casino proposal died, so any other potential amendments to it died as well. Why do I think it died? I think it died obviously because of the opposition of certain members of the leadership, but perhaps if the governor come back with a more modified plan, maybe 1 casino or 2 casinos, or a plan that spreads it out over several years, that might be more palatable to the leadership. But what I would want to see is a piece of the pie directed back towards the cities and towns, so the state gets off their back with all these requirements that have been put on them, many by court decision, special education, school transportation. Those are all pushed upon us by decisions by state and federal courts, mostly federal courts. As far as the governor, and people who don't agree with my position on casino gaming may ask why. What I ask the people to realize is at least 1 casino is coming to the Commonwealth anyways, with the Wampanoags adjudged a Native American tribe, an Indian tribe. They have the right to build some level of gambling entity, be it a high-stakes bingo parlor or slot machines or whatever. That's coming anyways. The question becomes, how long is it going to take? And if they go with the minimum that they can do under the federal decision, the Commonwealth gets nothing out of it except the headaches of parking and infrastructure and the gambling addictions and problems that are attendant upon that. So we've got to be realistic and take this into account. If the Commonwealth wants to have a part of that, then they should regulate it, and they should be able to get some benefit from that. And I hope we go back to that debate in the coming year. So it's things like that I did agree with the governor on overall, but I wanted revenues from to be more directed towards the cities and towns.
As far as giving local cities and towns?
Oh, cities and towns. Well, it sounds great in concept, but what's it do for Sterling? You know, a restaurant tax and a room tax. Well, you've got a couple restaurants in town, so I mean, I was never presented with any figures that swayed me that would be tremendously helpful to my district. Now, if the municipalities want it to be local option, well, maybe that's okay. It'd help the Worcesters and the Bostons and the larger municipalities that have hotels and that have lots of restaurants, but it doesn't really do anything for the towns in our district. That's where, you know, taxing the proceeds from the casino gaming, and if we were not, this isn't the only thing I have to talk about, but if we make better deals than the people in Connecticut made. They only get 25% of the revenues from the slot machines. They get nothing from the entertainment. They get nothing from the restaurant. They get nothing from the table games. We need to make better deals with that than that if these companies are coming in. But we don't need to be sold a bill of goods either. I think the governor used highly inflated and was given highly inflated figures on what the real benefits were going to be, both money-wise and job-wise. We need to be realistic about that. And even since we've had the debate on that in the past 6 months, 8 months, we've seen even more new statistics showing us that it wasn't going to be as profitable as we were led to believe. So that's why we have to be cautious going down that path, but I still think we should look down that path.
You mentioned the different towns in the district, and in the context of local municipal taxes, let's see, like a town like Northborough, where they're on Route 9, they may have a different need for something like that than Sterling, but it seems that that's got to be quite a challenge for you as a representative to represent a district that has such wide-ranging populations. I mean, Sterling is very much a rural community, rural suburban community. You've got Clinton, who's an old mill town. Northborough is really a Metro West kind of a town. How do you meet those challenges? How do you balance what one community needs with what another community needs?
Time and commitment. And you don't necessarily have to balance what community needs, what the needs of one community is to the needs of what another community is. What you do is you get out there and you get to know the people like yourself and the selectmen in town, in the towns, the school committee people, the parents, the veterans, and you get to know, you spend time in each of the towns, and you get to know the people, and you get to know their needs and their desires and their dreams and their wants. And that's what you take with you to the State House every day. And you take that into account. And once you get to know that, once you spend some time getting to know the individuals in the towns and the character of each town and what those towns need. Sterling needs help with economic development, and Clinton always has their watershed protection issues. Northborough with growth, and Lancaster and Boylston, similar issues. You spend time with the people of those towns, you get to know them, and then you can carry that with you, and you educate yourself so that when a certain piece of legislation comes up, you know how it's going to affect each and every one of your towns, and you work to modify it. If it's going to have a more positive effect on one town than another, you don't try to take the positive effect away from the one town, you try to get it for the other. And it takes time and commitment and a lot of hard work and a lot of hours in meeting with your colleagues in the legislature and in the Ways and Means Committee, and we've been pretty successful in doing that.